Hello and a very warm welcome everyone to our today's webinar on dermatology, study design, regulatory study strategies, and patient participation. I am Ibragi Chandeli and I represent Veeda Group. Veeda Clinical Research Limited, together with its subsidiary BioNeeds India Private Limited and its joint venture Ingenuity Biosciences Private Limited, altogether referred to as the Veeda Group, offers a comprehensive portfolio of clinical, services support and generic drug development programs of our global clientele. Together, we serve clients globally in pharmaceutical, biopharmaceutical, agrochemical, industrial chemicals, herbal, nutraceuticals, and medical devices industries. As your facilitator today, I would like to introduce you all to a couple of points as we begin this session. This session will have a presentation in the beginning, followed by a panel discussion at the end. We have enabled our Ask a feature to draw your questions. Moving forward, I would like to introduce you all to our panelist for today's session, Dr. Ashutosh Jani. Dr. Ashutosh Jani has over 17 years of experience in the field of clinical research. He has an experience of working in academia, pharmaceutical companies, and contract research organizations. During his tenure, he has managed teams involved in clinical operations and business development. And he has rich experience in clinical development, project management, contract negotiation, and implementation of endocrinology and inflammatory disease, including multiple rare and complex indications. His area of expertise is patient-based pharmacokinetic studies for precision medicine, 505(b)(2), new chemical entities, biologics, and complex generics in oncology and psychiatry. Our second panelist for today's webinar is Dr. Ravi Alamchandani. Dr. Ravi is a MD Pharmacology gold medalist with over 6 years of experience in the field of medical and safety. Experience includes working in various pharmaceutical companies and contract research organizations like DDMM, Heart Institute, Torrent Pharmaceuticals, Lambda Therapeutic Research Limited, before joining Veeda Clinical Research. He is currently associated with Veeda Clinical Research and is leading the team involved in medical monitoring, medical writing, and pharmacovigilance. He has also been involved in and managed teams involved in medical writing, medical monitoring, and safety reporting activities of phase 1 to phase 4 clinical studies, which includes efficacy studies, patient PK studies, including MDs, and with studies involving NCE, biologics, and generics. So without any further delay, I would like to virtually call upon Dr. Ravi to begin this session. Over to you, Dr. Ravi. Dr. Ravi, you will have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry for that. Hello, my colleagues. I'll be initiating the present on dermatological study designs and few of the regulatory strategies. These will be the topics that will be covered in the today's webinar. So that's myself. So giving you overview of the study. Now, grossly, if I see dermatology, it's a wide topic. It covers everything, the skin and its appendages that are there from head to toe. So it may involve the diseases of the scalp. It may involve diseases of toes and all the parts of the body wherever there is skin or its appendages. So we have seen indication. We have done studies with hair lice, scalp folliculitis. We have done studies for onychomycosis. We have done studies for atopic dermatitis. We have done studies with psoriasis as an indication. So as I said, dermatology is a vast topic. So how to break down this topic into easily understandable language. For this, I have not divided the in dermatology into different indications, but I have divided from the viewpoint of conducting clinical study this topic in from based on the route of drug administration. Because once the route of administration is known, the designing of the study is very clear when it comes to dermatology. For example, if it's an oral formulation and if it is a chemical entity, and if some sponsor wants to develop a generic molecule of it, then a simple bioequivalent study with pharmacokinetic endpoint serves the purpose. If the route of application or route of administration is topical, then the type of study, if a sponsor wants to develop a generic entity, will depend upon what molecule is it. Is it a steroid or it is a non-steroidal drug? For non-steroidal drug, the usually recommended studies are bioequivalent study with clinical endpoint, wherein some samples may be required to evaluate the absorption of the drug from the site of application into the systemic circulation. So you may have one or two blood samples assessing the level of drug into the blood just from the safety point of view. If it is steroids, topical steroids, the requirement is a vasoconstrictor studies that can be easily done in healthy volunteers. When it comes to parenteral preparation, now if this parenteral preparation is a chemical entity, a bioequivalent study with a pharmacokinetic endpoint serves purpose in most of the times. And if this parenteral drug, hello, if this parenteral drug is a biosimilar, then we need to follow the complete pathway for biosimilar studies. That is a PK study, efficacy, safety, and immunogenicity study. So grossly, when we divide the dermatological drugs in the based on the route of administration, it becomes easy to plan the studies. For example, if I say apremilast, now apremilast, I clearly remember when it was first time available, was first time it was developed and a generic was being planned in India, in a country where there was this molecule was to be launched first time. Initially, the sponsor thought of doing efficacy study in the Indian subjects, but sooner one sponsor got an approval for a B study with a US reference product, and that was approved by DCGI. And since then, the trend for Indian market has been to conduct a BE study for this particular molecule in healthy subjects. The same approach is also accepted by US FDA. Based on the guidance, you need a fasting and a fed study, which is a single dose two-way crossover study in healthy volunteers. So oral product, the studies for oral product in case of dermatology are pretty simple. They're standard. Similar is the case for terbinafine, wherein again you require a BE study in healthy volunteers, PK-BE study in healthy volunteers. But when this formulation, say terbinafine is tablet, you recommend a PK-BE study in healthy volunteer. But the moment you want to conduct a study for terbinafine cream, which is the topical, the study design changes altogether. It becomes complicated. See here, a topical product, terbinafine cream. Now here, the study design is altogether different. The recommendation is a bioequivalent study with a clinical endpoint in patients with interdigital tinea pedis. Now here, this is a comparative study against RLD, wherein the objective is to establish an equivalence or a non-inferiority against RLD. And for any topical product, there is an additional requirement of establishing superiority over placebo for both test and reference. So I just jumped few slides because just I wanted to show you the comparison between, the same chemical entity, but different route of administration, and hence the different study design altogether. One, a single dose study in healthy volunteer, other, a clinical endpoint efficacy study in patients with tinea pedis. So that's the difference. That's the impact of the formulation or the route of administration on the study design. Now, study design for topical solutions are bit complex, bit challenging as compared to other routes. Why so? As we all know that for topical formulations, the absorption is poor. Hence, you cannot conduct a PK/BE study. So the only solution remains is to conduct an efficacy study, that is a bioequivalence study with a clinical endpoint. The study design is complicated because you usually have to compare your product not only with the reference listed drug, but also with a placebo. And you require that in your study, both the test and the reference product should establish superiority over the placebo. It's not just that your product should be establishing a superiority over the placebo, but the reference product should also be establishing the superiority over the placebo. Now, the most common challenge that we have seen in this dermatological topical trials is subjective assessment. Because what is a responder to me may not be a responder to someone else. What is a partial response to me may be a complete response to someone else. What may be a grade 3 score to someone else may be a grade 2 to me. So subjective assessment has a huge impact on these particular studies. So how do we bring about a solution to this? We have to standardize the assessment criteria. And what we usually do for such studies is that we organize an investigator meet wherein we train all the PIs in the subjective assessment. We rope in some key opinion leaders from the industry who harmonize the slide deck, who harmonize the pictures and gives a presentation to the investigators so that there is a uniform alignment when it comes to assessing the subjects from all the investigators. The other concern that we have usually encountered in the topicals dermatological product is there is usually a high placebo response. You take atopic dermatitis, placebo vehicle base in itself will show 20 to 30% response. You take psoriasis, again, there is a great degree of response that you achieve with placebo. So when you plan a placebo control design and the placebo itself has very high response rate, in that case, whenever you are going for sample size calculation, you tend to get a higher sample size. But you always have to consider what is the clinically meaningful difference that you need to preserve over the placebo while considering the sample size, so that the sample size is optimum to detect the difference between, to detect the superiority between the active drug and placebo, and as well as, to be meaningful when the regulatory assesses it. And one of the other challenges that we have usually encountered during these topical products is, handling of the compliance. You don't know how much some subjects may think that applying more drug gives better response, though they keep on applying more drug. Some subjects they apply, very less drug. So compliance is a huge issue when it comes to the topical products. Now, use of patient diary card is definitely one thing, but how do you control the quantity? Whether the subject is, applying, say, 1 FTU, 1 fingertip unit product appropriately or not, whether, someone's finger may be small, someone's finger may be big, someone's area of involvement may be small, someone's area of involvement may be, huge. So how you address that? Now, we as a part of trial, we usually address this issue by introducing one major step, That is, we do pre and post dose application weighing of the IMP at the site. This usually gives us the amount of IP that is needed per application. We already know the number of applications that will be there for the entire study. And with this, we can calculate as to what amount of IP will be required by the subject during the entire study. And this can definitely help us with the compliance part. We have practically done all these measures to ensure compliance in our studies. So as I said, dermatological products, topical usually are very complicated, and handling these studies is really a tough task. I have already discussed Tecrolimus Cream. Now coming to Tecrolimus Cream, this particular product is very close to me because I have done various studies on this particular product, and we have got successfully cleared US FDA inspection, as well as we have got approval for the products and they are already in the market. For this particular product, again, the FDA recommends a non-inferiority study against the reference and a superiority against the placebo in subjects with moderate to severe atopic dermatitis. Now, the challenges that were encountered during this study were, first, this particular disease is more common in children. However, in India, it is not very easy to get approval for trials in children. Hence, we did this study in adults, and so is the recommendation of the OGD. So this was one particular challenge that we faced for this particular Tecrolimus Cream. Still, we were able to successfully recruit over 400 subjects. The other challenge that we encountered was FDA specifically recommends to collect a PK sample just prior to the application of 8th dose, that is on day 4. Now, for most of these subjects, this application was falling in the evening, and usually we are aware that these subjects come from various, locations across the city. So we really managed it operationally, well, to collect these day 4 samples just prior to the 8th application. We also ensured, that the compliance was maintained, and we got a successful approval for this particular study. Ivermectin lotion. This product is recently approved in India as well in 2018 for hair lice. And I would say we face certain challenges with regard to this particular product for one of the clients, wherein the submission was for a country, where this product is not already approved. And so the sponsor wanted to do this study against the placebo and had wanted to have no comparator. But since this product is already approved in India, we had to face certain challenges while conducting or while going through the regulatory approval state. Otherwise, this is a fairly simple study where again you need to establish a non-inferiority against the reference drug and a superiority against the placebo, with visits at various intervals right from day 2 till day 14. Vasoconstrictor studies for topical steroids. We have our in-house facility wherein conduct these studies in healthy volunteers. A recommendation is to conduct a pilot as well as pivotal study. These are very fairly simple studies being regularly done at Veeda. Now, this particular product, amphotericin B, is not per se a dermatological product, but it is approved for significant fungal infection as well as visceral leishmaniasis. But I could not find ideal example for this particular, this particular parenteral product recommendation. but still it's an antifungal drug of very high potency with high toxicity rate. But for this particular product, as can be seen by the draft guidance, the FDA recommends a bioequivalent study with pharmacokinetic endpoint in healthy volunteers. So as I said, the route of administration determines greatly the type of study that needs to be done for dermatological products. Regulatory approval for such particular studies are not much of a challenge, since we have already started these particular types of studies already at our center. We have got regulatory approvals, so that's not an issue. Now, coming to other type of parenteral products that are approved in dermatological indications, that are biosimilars. So we have already adalimumab, etanercept, infliximab, and ustekinumab, which are approved for psoriasis as well as hidradenitis suppurativa. So there are standard forms of trials that need to be conducted for biosimilars. We need to conduct a PK BE study in healthy volunteers, because the recommendation is to have AUC 0 to infinity. And we also need to conduct efficacy, safety, and immunogenicity trials in subjects wherein we need, in patients wherein we need to establish the efficacy, safety, and immunogenicity of these particular molecules. We already have done studies for adalimumab, etanercept. We are well experienced with that. So these are fairly these may be complex, but these are fairly doable studies. So that's it from my side. I've fairly covered, the types of dermatological routes of drug administration and the trials that we need to conduct for them. And regulatory pathways are not, difficult for these particular sort of studies. The approval is quite simple. Thank you. I'll let Dr. Ashutosh take over from here.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ravi. I think you need to stop sharing, and I can start off. Thank you. Okay, so with this overview about various possible designs and the study requirements based on certain regulators, which Dr. Ravi has vividly covered, we would also like to emphasize, like, dermatology basically is, as we all know, the skin is the largest organ as far as the surface area is concerned, and we could say the most neglected one. But we need to ensure when we are conducting the studies, especially the trials onto the dermatology, we cannot neglect the patient per se. So it's really very important that we have the study designed in a way which is more patient centric, where more importance is given to the patient, and the typical requirements, if at all any, are taken care of. So the key players for any dermatological trial would be obviously the patient and the sponsor. And the motive for the patient to be would be to get access to successful treatment, or prevent, I mean, say, get cure, or the flare prevention for chronic skin disease which are there. And if we go from the sponsors perspective, definitely they would be looking for getting a good recruitment rate. The patient should be adherent to the treatment in question. You get a good data, and ultimately you are able to help the other patients after getting an approval with respect to the indication in question. So there are different ways in which we could make it more patient centric and and try to do it in the right way. So nowadays, like say, we have very innovative partnerships available. So we have typical support groups or advisory boards which are helpful, especially in the recruitment part. If we consider a scenario like India, we have ASHA workers. So those are typical government hospital employees who go into the interiors of the particular place. They try to uh, inform about particular disease and available options, and if at all they could be of any help to the community. Similarly, we also need to ensure, especially with this adaptive design in the protocol, uh, the different adaptive possibilities, so that we design a study which is more real world scenario, and we're able to get the right answer to our typical question. The technology has definitely advanced over a period of time, and we are in an era where digital has taken over the paper, and definitely would like to the patient would also like to be engaged in a digital way as compared to the normal routine ones. And just to ease out the volunteers' confidence, we could also involve them. A specific nursing could be managed onto their home, or some logistic assistance could be provided, so that they feel at ease, and the enrollment and the follow-ups are not affected. So as we were just mentioning, definitely the patient has the center seat whenever we try to design studies with
Dr.
respect to,
Ashutosh, the slides are not moving.
is it, are we on the next slide? No?
We are still on the first slide.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Dr. Ravi. Are we able to see the slide?
Yes, can you make it in the presentation mode?
Yeah, I just did that. Are we able to see it?
Mm, Currently, it is not in the presentation mode.
I think it did. For me, it's in the presentation mode. I'm not sure. You are able to see?
I'm able to see. Can you just move your slides?
Okay. Does it move?
It's not moving.
Okay. Can you take the control? I mean, so the
Uh,
presentation.
yeah, you stop the presentation. I'll start presenting.
Yeah, I think we are at this slide, right? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank. Yeah. So as we are just mentioning, like definitely we would like to patient would be on the center seat, and the design per se should be involving the focus on towards the patient. Because now, like say, we also have seen in the earlier part, there are endpoint studies which require assessment, and there are different gaps, as Dr. Ravi mentioned, the challenges. So there would be a huge amount of stress would be laid down onto the correct site, getting the right patient enrollment based on the previous experiences to conduct the successful study outcome. We can move to the next one. Thanks. So what measures should be taken for this is, like say, especially like there are chances that we may encounter untowards the situation like we had already COVID and with this rise. So there should be a provision for various options, especially the drug supply, the remote source data verification, or at times required, we should have this option of central monitoring also embedded into the protocol. If at all there are lab visits which are could be delayed, or we have the option of conducting the labs locally instead of the central lab. Yeah, we could go to the next one. So what we did is we tried to figure out the various studies which have been conducted in India. So from the CTRI database, we tried to sort them out based on various indications. So as you can see in the current slide that there are studies being conducted for various phases and various indications. The highest being definitely vitiligo, acne is one of them, atopic dermatitis also. So psoriasis, acne, atopic dermatitis, vitiligo, these indications typically have a huge pool of patients available in India, and there are being studies being conducted in various phases of the clinical trial. Yeah, we can go to the next one. So what we tried is we tried to identify the key success factors which could be possible related to the success of the study, and definitely the knowledge and experience of the site would take the first seat, and followed by an experienced team. So all these factors with innovative technology or proper planning or proactive planning would definitely build up the ingredient for a successful dermatological study conduct. Go to the next one. So what we provide is, like say, there'll be a project manager who would be responsible for the total deliverables with respect to the project, and would be the one point of contact for the sponsors. And the team below the project manager would, including the CRA, CTAs, all the team members would be supporting the project manager, and the project manager would be the face managing all the nitty-gritty, mitigating the risk associated with the study, etc. There would be definitely a strong oversight from the senior management over the study. Go to the next one. Next slide. Yeah. So the right team is definitely an important parameter, as we see. So we here at Veeda, as Dr. Ravi mentioned, we have done conducted several dermatological indication studies in various dermatological indications, primarily being psoriasis, atopic dermatitis. And we have a strong regulatory network also. We work with various biopharmas, small emerging pharmas, as well as biotech firm. So basically, we understand the nuances associated with dermatological studies, and we have investigators who have successfully cleared US FDA inspections in the past. And we definitely recognize that there should be a standard training plan. As Dr. Ravi mentioned, the quantity of medication to be administered or to be applied would be varying. The evaluation part would also be varying from a person to person. So to make all these subjective observations in a more streamlined way, definitely training definitely takes an important part in especially this dermatological study. And we do have a great emphasis laid down specifically for the training and quality with respect to the study data. So what we are able to do is, like say, we have a huge database of investigators with whom we work. So we could quickly start off with the studies and accomplish the required enrollment. So this is where we differentiate from the others. Like say, we have very good rapport with the clinical sites as well as key opinion leaders to get a quicker turnaround and a good quality data. Go to the next one. So just a brief bio sketch for our project manager, Amin. He's been working on various studies, including he has a huge experience also in the dermatological space, and also worked with various biosimilars in the past. We can go to the next one. So if we consider the startup considerations, especially for a dermat study, definitely we should be taking care of the consent forms, the patient diaries, the scales definitely should be validated tools which should be used for the conduct of the dermatological studies. And validated questionnaires should be administered to the patients. Uh, there are different patient engagements which also are important, especially when we're dealing with pediatric population, because there are several studies which been indicated for uh, pediatric population, and we need to keep them engaged. So the kids of different ages, they should be motivated and engaged to be part of such dermatological studies. So that consideration we do take, especially when designing the startup phase of the study. The protocol part would also be equally important, especially with respect to the demographics, because there are, as we've seen in the previous slide, in India we find different indications the studies being conducted. But like say the certain rare indications, like say rosea, we don't get that huge amount of patients as we got for other indications. Allergy is also an important parameter which needs to be addressed, because there could be allergy to either the excipient vehicle or the placebo arm. There could be chances. So these things should be taken care, and we do take care, especially during the startup. Photography, because nowadays, like say, photography has been also one of a validated tool to check about come to a endpoint, and we definitely need to lay down specific parameters for the photography, how the photographs, what angle should be taken, the brightness, light, the pixel, the use, etc. So those are all put up in the ops manual, and there is the streamlining of these parameters which is taken care. Pandemic measures, as we're seeing the rise in the COVID cases again. There could be things as we've seen the placebo or phototoxicity. So these ingredients could be at times we see that placebo or vehicles could be producing beneficial effect. As Dr. Ravi mentioned, nearly 30% of the cases of ectopic dermatitis, there are high chances that they produce responses in a placebo arm also. Yeah. Next slide, please. So we do take care of all these typical concerns which could be arising from our dermatological studies, and subsequently we start off with all our activities with related to the study, including the selection of the right investigators, designing the different plans for the uniformity of the study conduct across the sites, and then getting the regulatory approvals as well as the various ethics committee approvals in the due course. And subsequently, we arrange a kickoff meeting where all the stakeholders are typically trained onto the requirement and updated onto the requirement of the study. Go to the next one. So as I was just mentioning, definitely site would play a key vital role in the enrollment. And we've seen that a good trained GCP investigator is definitely an asset to the study. And we definitely try to narrow down our search to such investigators or the sites which have either a regulatory history, successfully faced regulatory inspection. The required infrastructure is available, including the typical IT requirements. We could go to the next one. So as a part of this pre-study, definitely various plans are put in place to take care of the conduct for dermatology studies, and all these are in place before we start off the study, so that we have uniform data across all the sites. Go to the next one. Yeah. So next one. So I was just mentioning all the stakeholders associated with the study, including various departments like quality assurance, data management, biostats, medical, sponsor. They are all group up together for a kickoff meeting where we take care of all the study deliverables, including the protocol and the various plans and the applicable regulatory requirements have been put up and trained on during a kickoff meeting. Good. So the initiation part is the next stage where we ensure that the proper training is given to the sites. The required infrastructure is available, especially when we talk of these type of dermatological studies where typical, like say a photograph or a camera would be needed apart from the routine equipments which would be there available at the site. So we plan usually 2-day visits where there is a proper training which has been given, explained thoroughly about the study requirements, the probable chances of the areas where there are high probabilities where there could be certain things which could be skipped or by oversight. So we emphasize on those things during the 2-day visit of site initiation. Go to the next one. So we do put up various strategies at site, especially at the patient level, so that we get pre-identified patients. Because as I was just mentioning, we have this advisory groups or advocacy groups who are having some database or reach out to deep reach into the special type of patient populations. So those are taken care. We do provide the required recruitment tools, awareness to the various sites in form of newsletters. The training is imparted, keeping them engaged onto the study requirements, and routine checks and monitoring of the study is being conducted for these studies. Next one. So raising the awareness of the clinical study would definitely be very important. So at the site level, there should be proper awareness within the site. So we look for either a database or awareness materials have been shared, what exactly typically we are looking for in the particular study. And if required, whenever the CRA goes, there are small lunch meetings or round table teaching presentations have been conducted, so that the team at the site level are being properly trained and motivated for the patient enrollment. At the expanding access, yeah, we could skip that. Thanks. So if we consider the expanding patient access, so what happens is the sites typically are saturated. So we have, say, very few trained investigators. So then we need to look for some other investigators who could be trained and has a good pool of patients. So we ensure that we add on to our database new investigators who are also getting trained onto the study requirement. We also individually see into what could be the possible seasonal effect or the placebo effect could be the case. We give a heads up early on so that these things are not a problem during the course of the study. We also think deeply, especially when there are certain studies involving women, and their participation could be affected because certain topical medications, say on the face, like say acne, if we take an example, they would not like to be involved in the such type of studies because they may have to go away with applying their makeups, etc. So if we foresee such type of problem during the study design, or such population may not be part of the study, we definitely give a heads up to the writers. And We also take care of the monitoring part through our routine monitoring. We also have a setup for remote monitoring, and where during a COVID scenario or where we are not able to travel restrictions, we do take care of a remote platform through which we take care of the monitoring of the sites. We can go to the next one. So medical monitoring is also taken up by the medical team. They are involved right from the study start. They are also involved in preparation of various plans, especially with respect to the medical part. They are available almost 24/7 for interaction with the site or any interaction with the investigator. So there are regular telecons which been arranged either if we required with the investigator or with the sponsor on a regular basis for the study conduct. You can go to the next one. Quality, there's an independent quality group which keeps checks and balances on our study conduct, and they are responsible for ensuring the regulatory compliance. We could skip next one. So if we come down to a few of the learnings which we have done from our derma studies, definitely uh, this is a tough indication at times. Screening, there could be uh, issues, especially with respect to the reports, because the patient may be referred, they may have incomplete information. The patterns for the disease are also seasonal. We'll see that also, because certain disease flare up only during certain period of time, and there are OTC products available. So because of this easy reach of certain products, that could definitely impact the study outcome. So we do give clear instructions for these usage and not to be used products also. So these things we have learned, that dispensing part, as we've seen, that is an important parameter. The quantity of the drug needs to be administered. So the amount which is being spread, the specific area across which the medication needs to be applied. All those aspects is what we have learned through our various studies which we have conducted. And we do take care of all these important parameters during the study conduct. We could go to the next one. So for the ease of conduct, we have a CTMS system through which we prepare our regular monitoring visit reports, the tracking of various things, including the budget, the IPs, the matrices for the CRA, etc. These are all taken care through our central, the CTMS system, trial monitoring system. Go to the next one. These are the key features through which we work on our CTMS. We could skip next. We also have electronic data capture, which is compliant with the applicable regulatory requirement, including 21 CFR Part 11 compliant, which is validated to go to the next one. We have an independent data management team for the data cleaning and processing. The next one. The RSTV platform, as we were just mentioning, that because of untoward events where the travel restrictions are there, we have this platform through which a monitor can remotely do the SDV and ensure the proper timelines and data cleaning for the study. The next one. So the key features for RSDV is like the site just needs to upload the required documents in the particular section, and the CRA would monitor against the CRF and for the various visits. And then the process is typically scanned documents are used, and there's a read-only access, so no downloads are possible. Next slide. So why would you come to Veeda for a dermat study? We definitely have reach out to advocatory organizations. We also work directly with this special community, patient communities, and we can gather the required information about the disease burden. We definitely share good rapport, and we have a good team. You could go to the next one. So this experienced team, a good database of investigators with whom which we have worked over FDA studies, and the sites which have been successfully inspected by US FDA. So these capabilities definitely put us apart from the other competitors. Go to the next one. So we are gonna do this study on to various indications. So just sharing a brief bio sketch for this. So that's atopic dermatitis. We go to the next one. So at times when we go for some rare dermatological indication, definitely there are additional challenges, especially with respect to the geography and the spread of the disease. Not much clarity, or when using some surrogate endpoints and biomarkers, definitely that restricts the limited site experience, and all those things restricts us from uh, uh, spreading across various sites. So these definitely certain rare dermatological indications are a challenge, and we have done that successfully in our past. Yeah, we go to the next one. So pediatric population studies are also equally challenging, and we're planning to come up with one in near future, where definitely we need to provide flexibility in the enrollment and planning wherever it's visible. Pediatric studies definitely would involve a more emphasis onto the LAR relationship, the documentation, the consenting procedure, etc. And definitely the work hours available, because there are chances that they will be school-going children. The disease could be also associated with the family members. So there would also be involvement of these family members, their motivation to bring the children for the regular visits, etc. So we've been coming up with this study. Will be have properly planned, managing expectations also from the family, especially with respect to the study participation. So there should be an equal ease with respect to participation, a proper explanation with respect to the activities and the study requirements. The next one. Yeah, so this is what we are coming up with. And if we summarize the Veeda advantage, we are definitely an independent CRO with a robust regulatory compliance experience, and a typically one-stop solution uh, for your study. We go to the next one. We have good regulatory credentials, and been inspected by FDA, DCI on a regular basis. That's it. Okay, that's it from my end. I think you are giving open for some questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashutosh, and thank you so much, Dr. Ravi, for wonderful presentations. Now, moving on, we'll be proceeding ahead with our panel discussion, where our panelists are going to answer some of the really interesting questions posed by our audience. My first question is for Dr. Ashutosh Jani. Dr. Ashutosh, the question is, how challenging or difficult is it to carry out clinical trials for dermatology?
Yeah, definitely. As we saw through it, it is challenging, especially towards special indications, and this selection of key parameters and the patients for the study would definitely be of great emphasis, especially in the dermatology indication. And it's important that we work with the experienced investigator who are well versed with respect to the scaling and rating of a particular disease. As we see, there is high variability associated with the disease evolution per se. Moreover, what we also feel and see is like investigators feel comfortable at times just referring the patient. I mean, say they may not would like to be part of the study, but they are good at referring the patient to a nearby place or someone who is actively involving. That could be also, but the patient may not be a exact fit for the study. So what we also typically do is the big protocol is broken down into bits and pieces, easy to understand, and digest, so that the concerned investigator is able to understand the basic requirement or the basic inclusion exclusion criteria as required for the study conduct. And definitely dermatology referrals is definitely there, so people usually also try to refer patients to a nearby hospital or a known investigator. So definitely it is challenging, but there are solutions or equally available for the conduct.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jani. My next question is for Dr. Ravi. The question is, Dr. Ravi, what regulatory challenges do you foresee if the sponsor wants to conduct a study with only placebo as a comparator, especially if there is no RLD approved in the country of submission, but the same is approved in India, the country of study conduct?
Yes, so recently only we faced this challenge wherein the reference listed drug is not approved in the country where the sponsor intends to market this product. However, the same product is available in other regulated markets as well as it is approved and available in the Indian market. Under these circumstances, and usually also the Indian regulators tend to prefer, do not tend to prefer placebo-controlled trials, and they usually recommend active comparator studies. Particularly in this scenario where the product is already available in Indian market, the DCGI requires that the study, the active drug should be compared with the Indian, Indian comparator, Indian product. And additionally, if the sponsor wants to compare this product with the placebo, then the placebo can be there, but as a third arm. So that's the scenario per se pertaining in India. But if the product was not there in India, not approved in India, then again there would have been two possibilities there. Definitely, with proper justification, placebo control trial could be done. That is, test being compared against the placebo, since there is the RLD is not even available in India. But the other recommendation that the DCGI could give or can give or has given in past is to compare the active drug against the standard of care that is already existing in India. So that could be the other approval. But yes, we can, if the product is not there in India, we can definitely try and attempt to get a approval for a placebo control trial. But the product is there in India. Usually, we should go ahead with an active comparator. Additionally, a placebo can always be there as a third. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Ravi. We'll just take one last question. The question is for Dr. Ashutosh. Dr. Ashutosh, the question is, does season have any impact on recruitment and outcomes?
Yeah, Yurangi. So as we saw through the presentation, like typical indications, if we take, say, atopic dermatitis, so it's more severe, especially in the winter. And in fact, of those, enrollment is maximum in the winter. So the climate definitely plays a vital role, especially for this dermatological typical indications. And in fact, on our experience per se, we were struggling with recruitment in the initial part of the study. But as soon as the winter started, and like say we were able to close the enrollment in the real time. So definitely the season per se definitely has an great impact onto the flare, or may say the patient enrollment also. And there are both ways, I would say. In those period, the benefit, uh, that there could be more benefit with vehicle during those non winter months in mild diseases. But then when the disease gets more aggressive, these the non, I mean say the placebo effects which we see, or the typical vehicle effect, or those would not be easily seen when this is the case. So yeah, to answer you, definitely the season has a great impact onto the recruitment and its outcomes.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ashutosh and Dr. Ravi, for your active participation and for nicely answering most of our audience questions. I would like to take a pause over here. We understand this session has kept us all well engaged throughout, but due to time constraints, we would not be able to take any further questions at this point of time. But please be rest assured that we will be sending the answers to every question of yours via emails. Also, we will be sending across the recorded link of this entire webinar on all the registered email IDs. Lastly, I, on behalf of research, would like to sincerely thank you all for taking our time to be part of this webinar. I would also like to extend our gratitude to Dr. Ashutosh and Dr. Ravi for being such wonderful presenters and host you all again. Till then, take care and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.